Well, we're at week 14, and this is literally the last chapter that you're going to be reading. And I'm just going to do something kind of different, mixed up for next week. Kind of recap, um, and then we have the final exam paper for the last week. So keep in mind that if you've made it up this far, you've literally already did the hardest amount of work. Like, this is it. I mean, if you've made it this far and you've kept up on your assignments, um, you're not done, but you're pretty done. and and the hardest part is over. I'm not one of those professors that makes this really hard, challenging final. You will have a big paper that you're going to write. I'll give you the topic soon. But ultimately, if you now kind of figure out my style, I do not emphasize exams as much as work and class engagement. Okay, so this week I changed things up. You're not even writing a paper this week, just doing notes on my lectures. The one that I took for my World Civ class that I put in on the Reformation, and these two hour-long documentaries, which are great and will be very helpful for you to visualize. Some interesting aspects of this section section. And the one on the King James Bible is really interesting. For many Protestants, there are still people who call themselves that, like, basically they're part of the King James only movement, where they only believe in using the King James. The Mormons only use the King James as they consider it the most reliable translation. Many people dispute that, though. The oldest manuscripts of the New Testament, Greek, actually don't have some passages that are in the Greek manuscripts that were used for the King James. So you actually have added verses in the King James that you will not see in newer translations of the Bible, mainly because those newer translations go by the older Greek texts, which actually don't have some of the newer ones. So believe it or not, I think it's John chapter 8 where there's the adulteress that the Pharisees give to Jesus, and they said, our law says to stone her. And then Jesus goes down in the ground and he starts writing something in the ground, and he says, let him that without sin cast the first stone. And then he gets up and they all leave, or they're all gone. And in other words, they're all sinners as well. And then he tells the adulteress, women, sin no more. Basically, go by your way in peace. It's a story transforming the corporal punishment of what adulteress was. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, like in Islam, adulteresses were, or even adulterers, men, were to be put to death. Jesus then says, let he who without sin cast the first stone. Well, and then he's saying everybody has sin, so like he does away with that. That passage does not exist in the oldest manuscripts of the Greek. There's also one in, I think it's 1 John 4:8. I should have actually wrote it down for you, but it basically says that there's the Spirit, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and these all are in unity. It's kind of a Trinitarian text. That does not exist in the oldest translation. There's another passage in the Gospels where it talks about them holding of snakes, and that's why in the South there's actually a group of Christians that actually listen to kind of like rock and roll Christian rock, and they grab rattlesnakes with poison and they dance around with them, and sometimes they get bitten, die, I think, but it's kind of strange that they don't. But in any case, they take this passage of the King James, talking about Christians would have the power to hold snakes, and that doesn't exist in the older Greek manuscripts, and you will not see in newer versions of the Bible. So that's kind of interesting, right? But in any case, the legacy of the King James Bible is tremendous on the English language. It's very interesting, and I think this is one of the greatest documentaries I've seen on this. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's good. Whether you're religious or not, it's a part of our literary tradition and cultural tradition of Western civilization. Very important. And so that's mainly all I have to say. And just contact me if you need anything else this week. I hope you're having a great time as we're trying to wind down. And then next week will be a kind of relaxed recap on my part of things. And then we're just going to have the final, and voila. Okay, so, all right, we'll be in touch.